Yeah. You have to click on equal sign, you click, sure.
I just want to talk about meaning is coming from Mr. Hassan.
Oh, they must come if they want to practice.
Yeah.
But they are lecture.
When are you reading this one? Now let's see if I can organize it.
No. All right, welcome everyone to SirAntwi Education channel. Today we are going to focus on database and HTML. So I'm going to start in a few minutes focusing on database. Let me know if you can hear me. Everyone, just put it in the comment section if you can hear me. Indicate before I start. And I believe database, I'm not going to spend much time because it doesn't involve a lot, unlike the spreadsheet and then Microsoft Word yesterday. Right, let me know if you can hear me, everybody. If you can hear me, indicate in the comment section. Now, can you hear me right now? Yes. Somebody said yes. So meaning everybody can hear me and then I can start straight away. Right. Okay, I'm going to start. Now, database, these are the things that you must focus on. Regarding table, remember database will be 35 marks and tomorrow you should not spend more than 40 minutes. So meaning that if you are wasting time spending more than 40 minutes, you need to continue with the other questions. Otherwise, you'll be behind time. So the minimum time should be 40 minutes or the maximum time should be 40 minutes. Now, database has been categorized into these 4 objects. And the 4 objects are table, form, queries, and then report. So regarding the table, you'll be given a question to change the field properties, like the field size, the field type, format, index, and then required properties. So today we are going to look at that as well. Right. And then the data sheet formatting, lookup, that's combo box, validation rule, and then validation text, input mask, and then calculations in database table. So we are going to look at that. Then for forms, to modify a form or create a form, calculations, adding calculations in the header or the footer section or in the details section. And then the action buttons, then also validation rule, input mask or lookup, as well as the combo box also in forms. Then again, queries, you'll be given 3 queries to work on. There will be 3 queries. The first query, either you modify a query whereby you have to specify the field that needs to show, sorting criteria, and then aggregate functions also. And then you have another query with the criteria, and then the last one will be calculations with some conditions. Then finally will be a report also grouping and sorting, adding calculations. They can ask you to also validation rule or input mask or combo box in a report, and then conditional formatting. So basically, this is the topic outline that constitute 35 marks. So without wasting much time, I'm gonna start with last year question paper, or I can use the collectible mark, but then let me focus on the last year question papers. So the June 2024, regarding database question, that's question 5. Now, so the first one, like I said, 5 animal. So I will open 5 animal from there. And then I will try to cater for all the aspects. Now, remember database, we have views. So if, for instance, I start with a design view with the TBL animals, right? Now, let's say this is the datasheet view. And then you can switch the views from here. You will see from the status bar or the bottom here, you will see this one, the datasheet view. And then you also find design view. So you can use that one to switch in between these two. Right. Now, you can alternatively use the views. You can alternatively use the views. You can use the views also from here and change them from datasheet view to design view. Right. The first thing that you must take out or take note of is the datasheet view. They can ask you a question to change the alternate colors or the background colors, or to remove the grid lines. Now, you can do that in 2 ways. First of all, you can use tell me what to do or the search, or alternatively, you'll find text formatting. There is an option there that you can click on it. Or you can say format. You start typing format. It's going to give you format cell. Now you click on format cell, then it's going to open the datasheet formatting for you. They will sometimes ask questions on this, the cell effect, the grid lines that needs to show, the alternate colors, the background colors they can ask you also, and the grid lines. Now, you must also watch out for this. They can ask you the border and then the line style. They can ask you to change the column header and the line. That means these column headers, like animals, the origin, and then the status, they can ask you questions to underline them. So you can get them also under the datasheet formatting, and then you choose column header and the line. They can ask you to use the dashes or the dot or the dash dot for that. Now, when you click OK, you can see that these ones have been underlined. Right, so let me remove the colors so that it will be more visible. Right, so now you can see the dotted lines also there. Now, that is the first part regarding the datasheet view. The second thing in the datasheet view that they can also ask is to delete a record. Now, let's say we want to delete this record, you just have to right click and you see delete record. They can also ask you to change the row height. You right click and then you see row height. Then we have something called a standard height. Standard height, it changes, keeps on changing when you take standard height. Now they can ask you to also change it to maybe to 25 or 30. That's the row height. Again, you can be given a question to change the column width. So you right click and then you see field width, then you can change it also, let's say to 10. Right, so they can ask you to change the row height or the column width, which you call the field width. Right, so let me check. Don't forget to bring your a video of it. There's a folder. Okay, I'm going to also look at that. Right, so that is it about this part of the datasheet view. Now, you can also sort in here, like let's say we are sorting in ascending order according to animals. So you select it, there's an arrow next to it, then you see sort A to Z. Now, they can also ask to do calculations in the datasheet view. To do calculations in the datasheet view, you will find what we call the totals. You see totals from the home tab, totals. When you click on it, it's going to give you the total row. So let's say they want the average population, then you now click there and then you choose. Now, because they have not formatted this one as number, so you don't see them. Other than that, if it's formatted as number, you are going to find it as average and other functions here. So basically, that is how we do calculations, like here, average and others. We can do calculations also here. So watch out for some of these questions also. You can freeze pin also in this particular area. They can tell you to freeze a column. So you right click and then you see freeze. You see here, say unfreeze and then freeze field, so that you can freeze a particular field, just like freeze pin in the spreadsheet. Then you can also hide a field. If you want to hide this one, you right click and then you see hide field, so that that field will be hidden. Now, if you want to bring it back, you right click, you see unhide field, then you can take that particular field. So that is all about datasheet view. You must watch out for them. Then we go to the design view. That's where you get so many questions under that. Now, when you go to design view, first of all, they will ask question about primary key. Now, when we talk about primary key, I'm going to give you, I'm going to just type this and then give you the characteristics of primary key. Now, when we talk about primary key should be unique, and then a field that cannot be empty. So these are the two criteria for primary key. It should be unique, and then sometimes you get learners saying that duplicated should not be duplicated. They are the same. Should not be duplicated. So primary key should be unique. What does that mean? It means that you cannot have two or more records having the same thing there. And then it cannot be empty. That means you can't have any field that is empty or a record is not there. So now when you look at this, by default, or in most cases, primary key can be ID number. But if you don't have ID number, let's say we have this one, and the question says we must choose appropriate primary key. Now, when you go there, first of all, go and check which field can be used as primary key. And we know that origin can never be primary key. Why? we can see that we have Africa repeating for the record. Then the animal, check if they are not repeating. So you have to check if the words here are not repeating. Ostrich. And then I can see monster here. So it seems the animals are not repeating. So you have to check that. And then the status cannot be a primary key because there are some of them repeating. Lifespan cannot be because there are numbers repeating here. And then the group, we have carnival that is repeating. Behavior also confident repeating. So basically, a primary key should be unique. So if this question they have asked you to choose the appropriate primary key, then the best one will be the animal because you can see any of these repeating. If they are repeating, it cannot be a primary key. So you have to take note of that. Right. So how do you set the primary key? You just right click on that field and then you choose primary key. Now, again, in the design view, they can ask you to create a new field. Let's say we want to create a new field that's between the status and then the population. Because it's going to replace population, you right click and choose insert row so that you'll be able to type the new row there. Let's say the new row will be code. And then the data type should be text. Right, so that's how we create a new field. Again, there are some instances whereby they will tell you to move this behavior field to become the second field or the first field. Now to move it, you will see this gray box here. You click and then you hold down your left mouse button, then you drag it to the position where it's supposed to be. So they can ask you questions to move it without deleting anything from there. So that is also the data or the design view. Now, the next thing that we are going to check regarding our scope will be what we call the modifying the field. So we are done with the datasheet formatting. Now we are going to modifying field. That is changing the field size, the type, the format, and index, and then required. All these properties, we are going to put them together. Right. Now, the field type. We have different field type. We have different field type. So field type, we have short text. Now, when we talk about short text, that is alphanumeric. And when we talk about alphanumeric, it can be combination of alphabet and numbers, or it can be alphabet. Right. So that should be less than or equals to 255. So meaning the alphanumeric or alphabet that can be up to 255 characters. So anytime there's more than 255 characters, then we call it long text, or sometimes we call it memo. So long text that's greater than 255 characters. So that's long text. Short text up to 255. So you must take note of that. And other field types like date and time, which is for date and time. Then we also have OLE, object, which we call it object linking embedded. And it's only for multimedia. When we talk about multimedia, it can be pictures, it can be video, it can be audio. So now anything that is picture and others, we use OLE object. And then we also have hyperlink for hyperlinks like email address or website address. So we use hyperlink. And then we have attachment also. Then we have currency for currency. And then we have numbers. And we have long number also. So basically, the one that you must be watching out for to change the short text, and then also OLE object, they like asking those questions. Attachments, also they like asking that type of questions. And then also hyperlink. Then all this, then we also have lookup wizard. Lookup wizard is always assigned for combo box or options. So whenever you want to choose or options, or then we use combo box, then we use what? Lookup wizard as the data type. Now, let's start with the first question to deal with all this. Now, I'll use this question paper. What's the June 2024? The first question, it says, set the property to the keeper name field. That will make sure a zookeeper is always assigned to an animal enclosure. So when you see always, or sometimes you can see must. Must, always, or you can also have should not be left empty. So those three keywords, that means the field property is required. So whenever you see it, must, should not be left empty, or always, then we use what? The field property called required. Required should be yes. So if you check this question here, they want us to set this keeper field, keeper name field to be required yes. That means you cannot leave it empty. So you go to keeper name field. Remember this question says you must use TBL 5_1. You right click and choose design view. Then the keeper name field, you see the property below, and then required, we change it to yes. That is, should not be left empty. Now 5.1.2, change the time field to accept values of this. Now look at the keyword here, they say format. That means the property is called format. Remember, we have the property called format also. Format. So we go to the time, and then the property should be 00 and then 00 also. What does that mean? They have this 00. So to set the format, that means the first 00 is the hour. So you put HH colon minute, MM. That means there is no second. If it was having 3 of them, then it's going to be second also. So here the question wanted us to set the time, the format there. When you click there, you will see that those formats that are given to us, the time, when I go to format and I click on the arrow, it doesn't give me any format. Why? Because the time is a short text, and the time can never be short text. It should be date and what? Time. So you first set date and time, and then you go to format. Then you look for the one that says hour and minute, which is the short time. If it is not there, you can type it also here, hour, and then colon 2M. So you can set up your own formatting over there, or you can choose the short time. Right, now when I go back to the other view, you will see that all the times are heaven, hour, and minute. There's no second given to us. There we go. So take note of that. Right, the next question. Set the properties of the enclosure field so that it will always display a message as shown below. Should incorrect information be entered? And then this question says only habitat or exhibit. So this one here message is the validation text. Validation text is when the message displays if there is a problem. Now, I will take the opportunity and then explain the concept of validation rule and validation text. And then validation text. Right. Now, validation rule, like we saw it in spreadsheet with the data validation, it's a rule that we use so that we ensure accuracy of data captured. Now, when you are dealing with numbers and we know the start number and the end number, so if you know the start and then end number, example, let's say age from 12 years up to 60 years. Now we know the start age, which is 12, and we know the end age, which is 60. Now, when you know this, we use the keyword between. So here between 12 and 60. That means from 12 to 60. You use the keyword between and then going with end. That means 12 and 60 are inclusive. You could have also said greater than or equals to 12 and less than or equals to 60. But then I prefer between. Between is easier because I know most learners, they make a mistake whenever that they are putting greater than. They make a mistake there. They tend to change it to less than. So when you know the start number and the end number, we use between. So you have to take note of that. And then again, if you are also dealing with date and you know the start date and end date. Like for instance, if the question says from the current date up until 31st of December. So we know the start date. We can also use between. The current date in database we don't use today, we use now. Or you can use date between now and type the 31st December in the normal format. The day first / the month / the year. Then automatically it will bring hashtag there for you. So we use between also when you know the start date and then the end date. And also regarding the validation rule, if you don't know where it's ending, of course, then you use that normal one, greater than or equals to maybe 12, and then or maybe less than or equals to 10. So these are the basic, but when you know the start and end, we use between. Then if it is text, like this particular question, which says only habitat or exhibit, then you need to use in inverted comma. Habitat, then you separate with all. Right. So if there are more than one, you separate each of them with all. That is how we use the all to separate it. If they have another one or none. So these are the three options. When it is only text, we use inverted comma and then we put them inside. Right. If the validation rule is only about, let's say, the question, it must contain the email. The email must contain. at symbol. And you know email address, when you say contain, then you put star, at, and then star. That means it contains at symbol. That means you can have at anywhere. So take note of that. Right, so this particular validation rule, we only needed to put the habitat or exhibit as our validation rule. So we needed to go there, and the question says we must add it to the enclosure field, this one. Then we type validation rule, habitat in inverted comma, separate with all. Right, so that's how we put the validation rule. And then the validation text, we put the only habitat or exhibit. So that's the text that is displayed. Only habitat or. Right, so that's all about the validation rule. Please take note of that. There are numerous questions about validation rule, which you can get it here. I'll share this one. I think I shared this one a long time. With so many questions talking about the validation rule. Don't forget about these required and others. You can go through this note also. And I shared them, most of the validation rule that is separated by or and that one. And we also have not. So you can use not inactive. That means excluding inactive. And then you can use text like between A and M. That means all the names that start with A up to all the names that start with M. So we use between also. We can use it for the text. And then we have is null and not null. That's empty. And you can also use this one as not. Less than and then greater than also as not. Right, so you go through this as the validation rule. And then the input mask, the character code, 0 represent digit that is required. So you must check from the input mark sheet. 0 and 9, and then the hashtag, they are together. 0 is a required, that is compulsory number. 9 is optional number, and hashtag is also optional number. But the difference between 9 and then hashtag is that 9 does not include other characters like plus and then minus. But then hashtag includes plus and then minus. So we can use any of them also. Right. And then we have L. We have L. L representing the letter which goes with the question mark. So L represents a letter which is required. Question mark also represents a letter which is optional. And then capital A represents a letter or digit. That means it can be a letter or it can also accept a digit. Then small a, which is a letter or digit, that is optional. So it means that it can accept a letter or it can accept a digit, which is also optional. So I will look at that also. And then these two also move together, which is N represent any character, which is compulsory. Capital C, any character, which is optional. So we should take note of that. Right. Let me check if you can see my screen. I will come to the expression builder. Please keep on bringing your questions. I will check them. Now, today's lesson will be shorter one, not more, because database and HTML. I'm not going to spend more time today. Right. And then the greater than also for uppercase, less than for lowercase. So you must take note of that. Don't forget to always refer to them from the input mask character sheet also. Right. So now we have first input mask that I'm going to talk about it. This question here, it says the keeper of the animal have a code they use to access the enclosure. Create an input mark on the access code to accept data as follows: a letter, followed by @ symbol, followed by the last 4 digits, which is the digit of the cell phone number, and then an optional letter. So here, a letter, which is L, followed by @. So @, you put the @ symbol, but then you must be in inverted comma because it is a character. And then the last 4 digits. Now, here they are talking about the digit, which is the 4 digits of their cell phone number. So because it's a digit, we put 0, 4 zeros. Right, so it will be capital L, @ symbol. Don't forget to put the @ symbol in inverted comma, then 4 zeros. And any optional character. Remember that I said optional character, we use this to represent optional character, which is the C. So N is a character that is compulsory. So any other optional character, we use capital C. So this should be the right input mask. So we pick it from the question paper. Then again, so here we put the L as our input mask. The question says should be for the access code. Input mask, and then we put L, followed by @. So we put the @ in inverted comma, followed by 4 digits, and then followed by optional character, which is capital C. So this should be the right input mask. But then there are times that they can give you a question. So this should be the input mask. You must always refer to it. Sometimes you can get a question whereby they want you to look at the data, the way the data is like here it says 3 compulsory letters, so you put 3L, and they say only the first one should be uppercase. So it should be 3L, only the first one should be uppercase. That should be greater than 3L, but only the first one should be uppercase, meaning the second and then the third one should be lowercase. And lowercase we use less than to represent lowercase. Then again, two compulsory digits, which is 2 zeros. And then followed by a single letter entry optional. A single letter entry optional, so meaning we put 9. And then the last one, they gave you example. So imagine they have given you this example. Let's say they gave you just this example, and then they ask you to create an input mask so that it will represent that. So you can see here they gave KRE01, capital KRE01, and then the next one they gave VAN02Y. The next one they gave VAN, capital VAN02Y. Now look at this. They can sometimes give you an example without telling you whether the first one should be this or that. Now, when they give you, let's say 2 or 3 examples, just write them and then you give them different code. Now you can see the first 2, each of them are letters, but then the letters is compulsory and it's having capital. So you put greater than L for this one. And then R E, and the AN, that means 2 letters also, which is small letters, you put less than 2L. Then this is 01 and this is 02. That means we have 2 numbers also following. So we put 2 zeros. But this is Y, and this one doesn't have anything. So somebody can say optional letter. So here somebody can just say 9. No, optional letter is question mark. Optional letter is question mark. Sorry for that. So here it should be not 9, it should be question mark. Optional letter is question mark. Why is it optional letter? Because this one has, but then here doesn't have a letter. So that is why it is optional. So please always refer to your input mark sheet and then you'll be able to do it. Please try to solve most of these questions. They have them here. A lot of them 3 digits followed by a hyphen. That means the hyphen should be in inverted comma. 3 letters in capital. Capital meaning you put greater than. There are so many of the input marks that will guide you. Please, you must take note of that. Right. And then we also have still on our scope. So that's the input mask. We did it. And then the data validation and then the text. Then we also talk about field size and then formatting. Then the different type and then the index. And then we also have the calculations. Then we are done with table. Right. So the field type, you must always check that you choose the right field. Like for instance, when you go to TBL animal, population cannot be short text. It should be number. And then the lookup wizard. There are 2 ways of dealing with the lookup wizard. Now, firstly, when you are dealing with lookup wizard, let's see whether we have lookup wizard question. Yeah, here is it, 5.2. But even though it's a form, we will come to that. With this form, the calculations in form, we will do this calculation also. Now, the lookup wizard is the options. Let's say they want you to create a new field called gender. And then the gender should pick male and female. So you go to short text, you change it to lookup wizard. And then we have 2 options here. I want the lookup field to get the values from another table. That is where you pick the value from another table. But sometimes they want the values to be typed. Then you choose the second option. I will type in the value that I want. You choose the second option and then you go to next. Then you type the values here. Male and then female. Right, that is 1 column. Sometimes they can give you 2 columns. So you change the number of columns to 2. Then you see column 2, let's say male, that's boy, and then female, girl. That is 2 columns. They are in 2 columns. Then you go to finish. Now let's go and check. Now you realize that when you go there, gender, it giving us 2 columns, male and then boy, and then female, girl. This is 2 columns. Now they can give you a screenshot, a question like that with a screenshot, and they tell you to solve it like that, like last year question paper, which I am going to show you regarding that one. The last year, that is 2024 question paper, they started asking that type of question. And anytime they are asking that type of question, maybe this year is not going to be easy one for you. They would like you to type them yourself, not to modify it. Now let's go to last year question paper, whereby we have that particular question. Here is it 5.1.4. And then I'm going to open 5 inventory. So 5 inventory. Right. So TBL 5_1. Now look at the question. It says, modify the lookup properties. So meaning there was a lookup already there for the designation field for the values to appear as shown in the example below. Now you can see designation, there are 2 columns. Manager is 1, manager we have 2, assistant manager, stock controller with an empty space, cashier with 1, and then cashier with 2. So there were 2 columns given to us. So when you go there, this is the field, and then you go to lookup properties, not the general properties. You go to lookup. And then you see it's a field list. They have given you the list here. Then the column count is 2. That means 2 columns. When we go there, it doesn't give us those manager and others. So meaning they were typed. We change the row source to value list. So now we can now find them. But check this one here, manager 1, manager 2. But here, the third one is not manager, it's assistant manager. So meaning there was no assistant this side. So we have to go and check. Manager with 1, manager with 2. But here, the assistant was not there. So we type it. Then we modify and go and check again. So we have assistant manager. Then we have them properly. So please check out for these type of questions whereby you need to modify the columns. Then again, there can also be a lookup whereby you take the values from another table. Then I'm going to show you also one question whereby you need to take the value from another table. Like this question here, sales details, whereby it says set the type of breed field to look the values dog, cat, mouse, parrot, and frog. So here we need to type the values which was only in one column. And then you come to this question. Also, cashier manager like the one that we just so I want to see a situation whereby we are picking from another table. Want to see whereby we pick from another table. One example. To pick it from another table. Yeah, here, which is 5 wonder. So we go back to that database file, and then we look for 5 wonder. We open it. Now look at the question. It says change the date field property to display the date as the medium date. So that's the first one. So we need to change it to the medium date. Create a lookup list to the country field. So here we are opening TBL countries. You right click and choose design view. Right. Let me just save it here, and then I can be able to modify it. So the question says we must edit the TBL countries table. And now we need to create the lookup for the country field to take the values from TBL countries. I think we're supposed to use this one. Yeah, this one. And you go to country, instead of short text, it should be lookup. But because we are picking from another table, we go to lookup, and then where it says display control text box, we change it to combo box. And then the row source, we select TBL countries. So if you are picking from a table, just go to the lookup field or lookup properties, and then you change the display control to combo box. The row source type should be table or query, and then row source, you choose that particular table. So that one becomes easier because when you go there, then the country field, we will see the list from the country field. So basically, when you are asked to change the row source to a table whereby you can pick it from another table, don't forget to use the combo box by clicking on the lookup properties. So that is all about the lookup. Now, we move straight to calculations in a table. Calculations in a table. And last year, I think there was calculations both in June and then the final. I think there was a calculation. Let's check last year question paper. Right. I think there was a calculation in a table, but if there's no calculation, I'm going to create my own calculation field. If there's no calculation, I'm going to create 2 or more calculations in a table before we proceed. All right, I have 5 activities also here. It says open TBL activities. Now, insert a new calculated field called recommend to display yes if the star review is greater or equals to 3, otherwise no. So I'm going to pick the if statement, and then also from there I'll also create a text function. Now, 5 animals. Whenever you are dealing with a text function, let's say we want to create a code 1. And then whenever you are dealing with calculations in a table, we change from short text to calculated. Now, the moment you choose calculated, it's going to give you expression builder. That is where we do the calculation. So let's say the code will be as follows. The first 3 letters of the animal. So we use left. Remember, first 3 means left. So we click on left, and then you double click on animal, or the double click on this FX for left, then animal. You choose the animal field. Then they say the first 3, so comma 3, and then you close the bracket. Followed by, when they say followed by, you use shift and 7, that's N, to concatenate. Let's say followed by the length, the total length of the behavior. So length, double click on the length, and then you come and double click on behavior, then you close it. Right, so that's how we do the concatenate or text function in. They can also say followed by the right of it or anything, or maybe the random number or what, to combine them. Then okay. So when you go there, it's going to concatenate this and join them as code 1. Now, what if they tell you everything should be in uppercase, but maybe you are done? So when you click on your calculation with the expression, there will be 3 dots here. When you click on it, it's going to open the expression builder for you again. Now, if the question says should be uppercase, you go just before the left, you say U case. In database, uppercase means U case. So U case, you double click, and then you close the bracket. L case means lowercase. So here everything will be in uppercase. L case means lowercase. So if they say should be in lowercase, you say L case. You don't use U case, but rather L case. Right. So that will be in lowercase. That's text function for you. And then we also have other functions like the normal calculations. Let's say we want to have population increase. You can see here, the population is here. And the question says next year, population will be increased by 10%. Insert a new calculated field called pop increase. Then you change it to calculated. So because we are increasing it, remember the original percentage is 100%. So if you are increasing it by 20%, it will be 100 plus 20%, which will give you, we all know it will be 120%, which is the same as 120%. Whenever you are increasing, you add that percentage to the original percentage, which is 100%. And remember, 100% is 120% is the same as 120 divided by 100. Right. If you are decreasing, you subtract from 100. So that one will be 100 minus 20 or percent. That is when you have the discounted price. So this one will now give you 80%, which will be 80 divided by 100. Then you multiply by that value. So you have to know this, the increasing and decreasing. Right. So let's say this question, the question says we need to increase, the population increase will be 20%. So I prefer this method, open bracket 100 plus 20, you close bracket, then say divide by 100. Because it's percentage, everything should be divided by 100 times, then you double click on population and then okay. So every population value will be increased by 20%. Let's check this one. This was 830,000. If it's increased, it's now going to be 996,000 because it has been increased by 20%. What if it was decreasing? Let's go and check. If it was decreasing, it was going to be minus instead of plus. Then you will see that when it's decreasing from 83,000 to 664,000 from 830,000. That's decreasing. So decreasing, you subtract, increasing, you add. So take note of that. They like asking that type of question also. Maybe VAT increase, VAT exclusion decrease, or population increase or decrease, or you calculate the discount and then other things. Right. Another type of calculation that you must also watch out for is date and time calculations. Like for instance, if we were to have a date, I don't think here we have any date here. Let me check the one that we have a date. I think the inventory, there is a date with a start date. Now, we have the start date. Let's say we want to calculate date to extract the month from the start date. Let's say the month, then you go to calculated, and then there's a function called month. And then you double click on the start date, then you close it. So it's going to extract the month from every start date for you. Right. So that is how we extract the month. You can do that just like the way you do in spreadsheet. You can extract it also. Don't forget the complex calculation in date and time, they can also ask you. You must expect every type of question. Again, the year, you can also extract the year and all those things from the calculation from a given date. Now, age, let's say we want to calculate the age, the number of years from calculated. Now, whenever you are calculating the age, remember we have the start date. And if they give another date, you just extract. But then age, we use the year function. Year of the current date, which is now. So some of them you see now or date or the date flag. You see this date serial. Then you put the current date here. I think in table you struggle to get now, but queries and then others you always find now functions also there. So date serial, let's say the current date, which is the 2025 slash the current date 10/20th minus the year of the start date. So this one will give you the age. So you see here, I'm getting a problem because of the date, the way I type the date. So whenever you are dealing with date calculation here, they will always give you two dates, and then maybe you calculate the age from it. Let's say we have start date and then we have the end date. Then you can easily calculate it like that. Right. Don't forget to use the year function when they ask that type of question. Now, if statement, like we saw this question here, which is we saw this question here, 5 activities. So let me go and open 5 activities. From 5 activities. Now, the question says, insert a new calculated field called recommend to display the value yes if the star review is greater than or equals to 3. Now here, otherwise no. So the star value greater or equals to 3. There are two ways of doing this. And I'm going to open, the question says we must open the TBL 5_1. So you open it in design view. So let's say recommend. Let me make it recommend 1. And then we choose calculated. Now they said when the star review value, you double click on it, is greater than or equals to 3. You put it there. Obviously going to give you the yes and no or minus. Let's check here. Now you can see it giving you the type values. Because of this, the star review, it's not having a number. It was not having number. It was only having the star. So meaning we have to use the length of it. The length of the star review. Because it is not number. So you have to apply the length function. The length of the star review must be greater than or equals to 3. Yes, so we got the answer right. Now, you see minus and then also 0. So the minus means yes, 0 means what? No. Minus is yes, and then this one is also no. So you see, it gives you the results as integer, which you can change them also. It gives you as integer. That's the numbers, 0 and then 1. Right. So basically, that is all about this particular function. But then if you were to use if statement, I'm going to show you also. Then we can go there and put if statement, which is double if, then comma, then we put yes, and then comma, no. So here is going to give me problem, the operand issue. The difference is that we need to only change, instead of greater or equal to 3, this one should be here. It should be 3 less than or equals to this answer. So if you put the expression there, you're always going to get a problem whenever you're using if statement. So here we got a yes and a no. So meaning for the if statement, with this kind of questions, you need to bring the number first before the operations. So here we need to just say, if 3 is less than or equals to the length of the style review, then yes, otherwise no. So we use the double if. But you can also use, so first of all, you need to just put the length. Then when you double click on this, the style review, greater than or equals to 3. Or you can say 3 less than or equals to that. This one here, when you put 3 less than or equal to that, 3 less than or equals to, is the same as this one. So depending on where you bring it. So this one is going to give you -1 and then 0. But if you bring the if statement, then you can put the conditions that should be displayed or the statement. Right. So that is all about if statement. So remember, they can ask you so many questions regarding this. They can even ask you to compare 2 columns, whether this one is equal to that, and it give you -1 or 0. So that is all about the calculations in table. Any question before I proceed to form and then queries? If you have any question, don't forget, yeah, there's gonna be hope. You will be able to get them, please. Now, let's move straight to the next one, which is the form. Form, I'm not going to spend much time regarding forms. Now, if you look at the scope, the forms, I will pick this question here, last year question paper, whereby they add validation rule and others, input mask. And then I'll also look at the calculations in form. So form, I will not spend much time. Now, last year question paper, which is the first one, 5 animals. No, the inventory. You were given a form. You open it in design view. Now, according to the question, the size of the image should be 5 by 3. This image that they put there. So we need to insert the image here. How do we insert image? You go to, when you click on the top here, you will see form design, and then you'll find arrange, you'll find format. Under the format, you see background image. If they ask you to put a background image. Now, the form design, you see the insert image. You browse and go and select that particular image. This is the image, then we draw it here. Now, as soon as you draw it, right click on the image, you'll see properties. Then on the right hand side, you change the properties. The size should be 5 by 3. So you go and check the width to be 5 and then the height to be 3. And then if it should cover everything, the size mode, you choose stretch to fill in. Watch out for other properties. They can ask you that it should not be displayed. Display when? Always. Let's say they don't want to display when you go to print or screen. When I go here, the screen only or print, they can ask you to change it. Right, that's the image. And then again, the visibility, they can ask you, it shouldn't be visible. So when I go here, it doesn't show. They change the property visibility to no. Right, so that is all about images. Then this question also asks us, input mask was used for cell number. So here is the cell number, and look at the input mask. It's having +27 followed by the number of digits here. And how many digits? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 digits. So +27 followed by 9 digits. So you go to the cell number, you right click, you see properties if it's not there. And then you go to data, you will see input mask. So you can click on the 3 dots to type the input mask, or you can also type them yourself here. It's having +27, so you put inverted comma, +27, followed by 9 digits, so you put 9 zeros. So 9 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then together with +27. So that is how we add input mask. They can also ask you to pick a default value, validation rule, and validation text. Watch out for them. Also in form. When you right click, you go to property sheet, data. That is where you see all the properties similar to the one that we found in a table. Like here, the start date, they can ask you to change the start date validation rule to be between 01/01/2025 and 31st December 2025. Then you put a validation text also. They can ask you also in form. And then again, regarding form, they can also ask you to insert a new calculator field. Let's say we want to insert a new field. So you go to form design. You're going to find AB, text box. Now, when you draw the text box, let's say we want to do some calculations here. Then to do calculations, you right click and then you see build event. Then you double click on expression builder. Then it's similar to the one in table, maybe the left of the cell number. How many characters? 3. Then your answer, you collect it and then you copy Control-C. You come and paste it inside and bound, you put equal sign, Control-V, so that it will also show the first 3 letters. So that is how we deal with the calculations. Of course, we can have other calculations like the VAT, increase the VAT, decrease, increasing by 10%. Also, don't forget to choose the text box. You draw, you right click, build event, and then you'll be able to go to expression builder. Then you do your calculations also there. So you must watch out for that. Lastly, they can ask you to insert also date and time. Let's say only date, not the time. Then you must remove include time. In most cases, they will tell you to put it in the footer. So you right click and say cut, then you come to the footer. You can see there's no footer there. You open it and then you right click and say paste so that you have it in the footer section. Right, so watch out for that. And then also action buttons. Action button. Action button like save form, close form. You get it from form design. This is action button. And then you can put it anywhere. They can ask you. We have different action buttons like form operation, close form, or we have record operation, delete record, next, and then you can just go there and then you can click on it. Sometimes they can say have a text on it. Those are the action buttons. You click on this one and then you draw it, then it will take you there. And then the background image, you get it from format, and then you see background image, and then you click on it to choose the background image also. We have also arranged. When you select field, when you go to arrange, they can ask you to use stack or any other format or tabular, and then also remove grid lines. You'll get them under arrange also. Watch out for that. You'll see all of them there. Right, with the control margins, the arrows, and medium. You must watch out for all this regarding form. Right, that is all about form. And then we move straight to queries. Like I told you, there will be 3 types of queries. There will be 3 types of queries, like this one here. Open the query QRY5_3. Based on this, insert a calculated field called profit to calculate the amount of profit that will be made on each product. So here we need to calculate profit that will be made. And then we have this one is still last year question paper 2024. So you right click on 5_3 in design view. Now to do calculations in a query, you go to empty space, you right click and choose build. Then you always see expression builder. Now we need to calculate profit. Profit will be selling price. You double click on selling price minus the cost price and then okay. Then you click on run. So you see the profit given to you here. But the question says the title here should be called profit, not EXPR1. So this title here should be called profit, not EXPR1. So we need to change this one. And you can change it. You go back to design view and then you delete the EXPR1. Then you type profit. Do not delete the column. So we have profit inserted for us. Right. What if the question wanted you to increase this by 10%? The same way, you right click, build, and now you're going to increase maybe selling price. Then you double click on selling price times, you open bracket, you are increasing by 10%. So 100 plus 10, you close bracket, divided by 100. That's 110%. Then you have it also here. That's the increasing. So whatever that we did also in table, you can also do them here. Text functions, they can ask you to do text functions. Don't forget to right click, build. And then remember I was telling you about the date and time. Here you can get them properly done. Right. So that is the question. Let's check the queries. Other queries also that you must watch out for. Now, they said create a list to display t-shirt product that have less than 5. So when you get this type of person, underline the criteria. Where can I find this? Where can I find it? Which column can I find this part? And then when you see all, you will talk about it. or any other product with 15 or more in stock for 5 marks. So we open 5 inventory again, query 5.4. Now, when you open it, relax, run it to see. Now the question says t-shirt. Now you ask yourself, where can I find t-shirt? It's a t-shirt product. Where can I find t-shirt? It is under product. Let me select all and then make it good. Now, where can I find product or t-shirt? It is under product, you can see. And how did they type t-shirt? T-shirt is part of Galaxy and part of other text. So what I'm going to tell you is that make use of wildcard for all your query criteria. Now, because the question says t-shirt, just type star t dash shirt star. That means it contains t-shirt. Or you can pick the first 3 characters, star t dash shi star. So the first 3 letters, or you can go beyond that. So under the product, the criteria, star t dash sh, can say I star. There we go. So you just pick the first 3 letters, star before and star after. Then you are there. So the star before and star after, we have gotten the t-shirt. And then again, that have less than 5 items in stock. So where do we find items in stock? Here. This is items in stock. And they say in stock should be less than 5. So on the same column where you put the t-shirt, then you go under in stock, you say less than 5. So we got these 2. We are not done yet. All. Now there's all here. That's very important. All. So all means you go to the next row. All means you jump to the next row. You see all. Now it says all any other product with 15 or more in stock. So you go to in stock or 15 or more, which is greater than or equals to 15. Or you can say greater than 14. Greater or equals to 15. That is 15 or more, meaning that 15 is included. Then you run it. So this should be the right one because say or any other product because of the or. So you have to move to the next row. Right. So that is how we deal with queries with the criteria. Please check it and then you'll be able to identify what do they want. Don't forget to put that. Sometimes they can even tell you to also maybe the stocks that are from 5 to 10. Then you say between 5 and 10. You use between 5 and 10. Between 5 and 10. That means from 5 up until 10. You can also use that one. Right. There is also another interesting criteria. Like maybe email address. Those who do not provide, like this one here, population. All those who don't have population. Let's say 5_3. Then I pick population. All those who do not have population. That means whereby population is empty. Then you say null. Null. Null means empty. When you say null means empty. When you say not null means not empty. It contains values. So here, if we want population, those who do not give population, we say null. So it's going to give empty spaces. And then if you want those that have population, you say not null. That means it will remove the empty spaces. It will remove the empty spaces. So take note of that, null and then not null. Now, what if not null and then they said only for excluding herbivore? Excluding herbivore. Excluding, we use less than and greater than. Then you type herbivore. Excluding herbivore. That means we don't want to see any herbivore here. So excluding, we use less than and then greater than. Watch out for this one. Excluding is this two. Then it will automatically put the inverted commas for you. This is excluding, that is not. And then this is null, empty. Not null means not empty. They like asking this type of question, please. And then the wild card, the star. Right, the last part of the query is called aggregate function here, which is like the subtotal, similar to subtotal. Now, that's the last part. It's always going to be there. Instead of them to put a screenshot, they will say for each. And I foresee that type of question this year. Instead of the screenshot, for each or according to. Or you see another keyword by each group or according to. Now you can see that we have category column and we see something here that says sum of inventory value, but there's nothing like sum of. So whenever you see sum of, AVG of, count of, then you know it's aggregate function. Aggregate function. So let me open 5_5. Now let's check here. The first column is category. So we change the product to category. And then the second column is sum of inventory value. But we don't have any sum of inventory value here as a field. It's only inventory value. We don't need this category. We can delete it. So we need only 2 columns. So anytime you see sum of with that of unusual with capital O, then you know that it is aggregate function. So here we need to just go there and say totals. We click on this totals and then this group by under the inventory value, because that is where we see the function called sum. We change this group by to sum and then you run it. Now, if you see count of, that means the group by should be changed to count. So you see sum of inventory value. Now check here again, there are 2 decimal places. They can tell you, but check here, only puzzle, the screenshot puzzle is first, and then with this one. And then check the values, 15, 16, 16, 17, 29. That means they sorted here in ascending order from smallest to biggest value. So here, you can sort it here and say from smallest to largest, or you can do that one from here and then go to inventory value. You say ascending order. They are all the same. Right. Now, you check if they ask you to round it. You go there, you right click, and then you choose properties. Then the format, we choose fixed. And in the decimal place, if they say no decimal, you choose 0. Whenever you are formatting to a fixed number of decimal place, you choose that one. They can also tell you to change it to currency. Let's say it was not having currency. Like this question here, it had the rand symbol. So we need to change it to rand symbol. You change from fixed to currency so that you see the rand symbol. Right, all under properties. So this is aggregate function. There are times they will say for each. Like this question, they could have just said, find the total inventory value for each category. That means they are grouping according to category, and then total meaning sum. If they say find average, you change the sum to average, which is AVG. Now you see AVG off. You could have given a screenshot like this, or look out for this last off. It is a function. They could have given a screenshot like this, or they can say first off, or standard deviation of, variance of, to calculate the variance. That VAR is a function. So you need to watch out for some of these functions that you might not be aware of. Right. So that is all about queries. Remember, if they ask you to create a query, you go to create query design. Query design, and then you now choose the field. Let's say we want TBL members. Then you double click what you want to show. And the one that the question says should not display, you must remove it. So that's how we create a query, and then you put the criteria also there. So that's how we create a query. To create a form, you go to form wizard, then you choose. Now let's go straight to report. To create a report, you go to create report wizard, then you can now select, let's say based on table members, then you select the field, next. Then they can ask you to group. Let's say we are grouping according to start date. Watch out for grouping options. They can ask you to change the grouping options. Let's say the start date should be quarterly or weekly or day or hour or minute. And then next, they can ask you to sort, and then you finish. So they can give you this type of question. And I like this type of question because the running sum, you can see here, start date by quarter. That means they change the grouping option by that. Right. Now let's check this question. The report, they created it. Replace the report header with a text stop. That means we need to right click and change this one. This header, we change it to stop. Report is similar to form. The only changes is how to create the calculations. Add a function in the category footer to display the number of product per category. That means you are adding for grouping the number for each category and add a suitable label. So to do calculation, you can see here we don't find any group and sort. You can get it from report design, you see group and sort. But if in examination you don't know where to find it, go to tell me what to do. You start typing group. It's going to give you group and sort. Now you'll see them here. They can ask you to add the sort or add the grouping. Now you go to more, and you will find with no totals. There is an error there because the question says we are finding the number of products for each category. So here, with no totals, the totals on, we choose product, number, we count. Then you take the last one, show subtotal in group footer because of for each. If the question says for all, you say show grand total. So here the calculation was done. You see the calculations here. And then they can ask you to put a label. So you go to the report design. The label is the A, capital A, and then you draw it. Then you can type the number of product per category. Right. So that is how we do calculations over here. Again, just like the way we did calculations that side, we can also do calculations here. Let's say we want to find increase or 10% increase of the cost. Also, we use the text box and we draw it. Then you right click and choose build event, expression builder. Then you can do the calculation here. 10 over 100 times the cost. Similar to report or form, you must copy it, Control C, then you come to unbound equals to, then Control V to paste it there. So now you get the calculations here, 10% for each. Right, that is how we do calculations in the report, either in the data sheet or per each category. Then again, with the report, they can ask you to find what we call the conditional formatting. Let's say we are applying conditional formatting on cost. When you select, you get conditional formatting from format, you see conditional formatting. If you don't know it, again, you can start searching conditional formatting. Now it says rules for cost, then you go to new rule, then you can select the rule, whether field value is equals to, and we also have compare to others. That is where we have the data bar, we have the other comparison, longer to data one, and then we also have field value is greater than maybe 10 or maybe 100, and then you shade it with a color. So you can also apply conditional formatting on a field here. The same way, we can also do, let's say we are changing the category to combo box. You right click and say change to combo box. Then you right click again and then see properties. Then you can change the properties. Let's say to a table called stock. So just like the combo box in a table, you can also do it here by right clicking, then you choose change to combo box. Also similar to form, combo box, input mask, you can do them also here. Then there's this new thing called inherent value list. Check out for that inherent value list. That is, you are taking value from another one. They can tell you to change it to yes or no. So you need to watch out for that type of question. Columns also, whether column is to be 2 or columns to be 1. All these are the type of things that you must be expecting regarding this. Yeah, you're gonna memorize it, you can watch it again. Right, this is all about database. There are numerous questions that you can also check. There are times that they will give you database report, which I will share this document with you also. The collectible, that is called the report, and then the form, you will see whereby they will give you a screenshot like this one. You can see that they put a picture here, you insert it, the group also. Sometimes they will give you a note, at that time they don't give you. Like here, the group according to pyramid, and then they did a calculation called maximum amount. So you go to, with no totals, you use the function maximum, and it should be under visitors cost. So you can see a screenshot also like that, then you'll be able to solve that type of question. Right. Watch out for that type of question also. They'll give you a screenshot, because last year the question was in a sentence form. This year could be a screenshot. Right, now let's move to HTML. HTML is just a brief one. So I think we have covered everything regarding database scope. We have covered everything regarding the scope with the conditions and calculations, group and sort, labels, conditional formatting, and combo box. Now, HTML is just short, background colors, horizontal line, images, hyperlinks, multi-level list, table, and then also the basics. So HTML for 15 marks, you should not spend more than 20 minutes on HTML. Now, I'm going to pick one question. I can pick last year question paper. Insert your examination number as a comment in the web page. Now, watch out for the comment also. So here we are going to open 6_1* from last year question paper. 6_1 star. This is the one. You right click and choose edit with Notepad++. Now, 6.1.1, we have to insert the tab here. If they say comment is easy. This is also comment, is always green. You can copy this comment. Now the question says your examination number as a comment. So you put less than comment, you must always have exclamation mark, then 2 dots, then you type your examination number, like 925, and then you put 2 dots, then you close it. So that is the first question, to put your examination number as a comment. Right, BG color, they can ask you to change the background color, BG color. This background image. If they want image to be the background, they take the attributes background. If it is color, BG color equals to, let's say, light blue. It should be one word. We don't separate them. Title, to display as a browser tab, we use title tag. Font, face, font also has size, let's say equals to 4 or 12. And we have the font color equals to, let's say, blue. Right, so these are the attributes of font also. You must take note. Center, tag to center the text. Insert the image 6_1 gift so that it appears as in the example on that page. This is the image. Now you can see the image was centered. It's in the middle. So we have to look for the file extension of that image. Check that image 6_1 gift. It is PNG. So we need to put that tag image here. You can press enter. IMG space SRC. That's the source. 6_1 gift. Let's check the name once more. 6_1 gift. One gift. And it's PNG, so it's a .png. Then you close it. Then they can tell you the image, they can tell you about the height. Let's say the height of the image should be 5 or maybe 12 pt. And then the width to be equals to maybe 8. Sometimes they can tell you that it should be fixed, should be changed. Then you can use pixels, which is px. Px means the image should not change. Otherwise, the points, we don't put the pixels. Right. Then there's an alternative text for the image, ALT. Let's say my picture. So that if it doesn't display, we use ALT. Now to center an image, you must put a tag called center. You cannot say align. You put a tag called center and then you close it. So the center tag, to center an image, center tag before and center tag after. They can even ask you to put the border for the image, then you use border equals, let's say, 6. So I want to cover everything, what you should be expecting regarding images. Right. Let me close this and then we proceed. Now, those are the basics that you must know. Then we look at the table. I'll also wrap up with the table with a call span and then row span and then the multi-level list. Right. The next question. Format the table as follows. There we go to the table. Set the spacing between the text and then the cell to be 15 pt. So when you see the space between the text and then the cell, it's called cell padding. Cell padding is the distance between the text and then also the cell borders. We call it cell padding. So this is the table. Inside the table, we say cell padding. You can double click here. Equals to 15. Then the cell spacing is the spaces between cells. So you must take note. Cell spacing is the spaces between cells. Cell spacing, let's say equals to 3. Right, there are other attributes like the border and other things. Edit the columns and then the list to appear as in the example on the previous page. Now let's go and look at this. There's a list inside and you see the columns. So meaning this table, we have 2 columns. 2 columns, and the rows are row 1, row 2, row 3. And this is column 1, column 2. So there are 2 columns and then 3 rows. So let's go and check whether we have the rows. TR meaning row, table row, the first row, second row, third row. So 3 rows. Now let's check. First row, it has the standard stars as the first TH. The reason why it's bold here is TH. So meaning they put TH and then they close here with TH. TH means table head, to be bold and center. Now these are not bold, so we use TD for it. So let's check. So the standard one, the first row, standard is TH, which is correct. And then the first row also has all these packages, which is this one, TD. Now this TD must end here because it contains all this from here up until this side, which is the cell. TD refers to the cell or the table data in a cell. Now this is the TD, which contains all this. So meaning that TD is start from here and then end here. But look at this. This TD here, they have combined how many rows? 1, 2, 3. 3 rows have been combined. So inside this TD, we say row span. Row span equals to 3. Why row span equals to 3? Because this TD is covering 3 rows. Row 1, row 2, and row 3. So this TD here, we must say row span equals to 3. That means combining 3 rows. If it was like this, then you can see call span is combining 2 columns. So you say call span equals to 2. But this one is combining rows. So you say row span equals to 3. So take note here. And then the list inside there, they are rounded list or bulleted list, circular, which is there, circular, and each LI must be enclosed. You must check it. LI. So OL style equals to circle, which is wrong. OL is a numbered list, like 1, 2, 3, ABC. Now these are bullet, circle bullet. So we change the OL to UL. UL means an ordered list. So we change OL to UL, which is the bullet. So anytime you are dealing with bullet, we use UL. And each list item is LI. But we don't say style, we say type. The type of the bullet. The type equals to circle. Because here they use a circular bullet. You can see circle. So you can say UL type equals to square. They can ask you to use square or a picture. If they ask you to use a picture, let's say UL type equals to Banel. Banel is sleeping dot PNG. So meaning there's a picture called Banel with sleeping.png, and I want to use that picture as a bullet. Then we use the name of the image dot the file extension of that particular image. So watch out for the image. And then again, multi-level list. One list inside another list. Let's say this particular one, this LI entry into the registry, locating via our new app is under 8. So I will not close this one. Then I open another type, or maybe OL type equals to A. I want to use ABC. And then because entry into the registry, these ones will be under 8. Then I put each LI. When I'm done, then I close this OL. So this OL is for this one. And then this one will be part of the first UL. So the trick is that multi-level list, if there's another list below, don't close this LI. When you are done with this OL, then you can now close that LI. So this close of LI is for this one because all these are under 8, and that is called the multi-level list. The trick is don't close it, then you open another OL or UL to be below 8. And then you start with your new list. I'll give a typical example here, but before that, let's finish these questions. Then I'll give a typical example of that one. Now, so we are done with that. Insert text on 6_1 button that links to this one at the bottom. So we are linking that one. To link, which is this one, we say AHREF. Hyperlinks AHREF equals to link this image. Now, if you are linking to a bookmark, we say AHREF equals to hashtag the bookmark name. Nana. So AHREF, then you close it. I think this A, we didn't close this part. We didn't close this A. All right, so we close this A for that one. So AHREF equals to that. Right, bookmark, we use hashtag, and then you put the name of the bookmark, and then you can type, go to first paragraph, and then you close your A. That's linking to a bookmark. If you are creating bookmark, it's A name equals to Nana. That means the name of the bookmark is A name. So when you are creating bookmark, we use A name. When you are linking to bookmark, we put a hashtag together with hyperlink reference. And if you are linking to an email address, we say AHREF equals to mail to, then column, then you type at gmail.com. Contact us. Then you close your A. So whenever you are linking to email, we use mail to. If you are linking to a website, we use HTTPS with a double slash. If you are linking to an email, we use mail to. So take note of that, and then followed by the email address. So basically, that is all about HTML that you must know. The others like bold, italic. If you want to have a line, you use BR. BR means line break. If you are creating you want to draw a line, you say HR. Horizontal line, you say width equals to maybe 100%. And then height, or maybe the size, not the height, the thickness of it. So that is how we deal with the horizontal line. You can put the border and then other things also, the color and all those, the font. So these are the basic text that you must know. But then watch out for table and then multi-level list also this year. So that is all for HTML. Any other question? Let me check from the comment section. It's not a bomb. You can do better. You can do better. When you watch the video and then you practice it, the question will never be difficult. It's going to be easy. I promise you tomorrow. Just make sure that you watch the videos and then you practice them also. Thank you all for your precious time. Good luck tomorrow. If you have any question, I will be there to address any question, both YouTube and then the WhatsApp group. If there's a question that you don't understand, let me know, then I will help everybody. Thank you for your precious time. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye. You were sleeping, boy?